Hello my friends, I know this setting is a bit weird, but I don't want to bring everything to a different location, so it is what it is. My name is Inna, and today I'm going to teach you how to make your own language study plan. I know that a lot of you are learning some languages on your own. Maybe you don't have the money to learn a language with a tutor. Maybe you just don't want the commitment of, taking a course, because a language course is, of course, a commitment. And I'm like that. Actually, I like to be flexible, and I don't really like to have to show up at the same time for a lesson, at the same time every week. So I often learn languages on my own. I am an English teacher, so I'm going to be speaking from the point of view of a teacher, and I'm going to be sharing a lot of things that I know as an English teacher, but I'm also a learner of Spanish, German and French. So I'm going to be speaking from my experience as a learner as well. I know you don't have a lot of time, so let's start. The first thing you need to know is that when learning a language, you need to take care of 4 types of skills and 3 types of knowledge. The 3 types or aspects of knowledge are vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. The 4 skills are listening and reading. Those are receptive skills, so you receive information. And speaking and writing, those are productive skills, so you produce something. You produce oral speech when it's speaking and written speech when it's writing. And any language course, or any language learning program, even if you learn a language on your own, has to include these 3 types of knowledge and the 4 types of skills. Any of them, starting from A1. Well, maybe at C2 you don't need grammar that much, because you have probably mastered most of the grammar by then, but yeah, everything else you still need, even at C1, C2, even at A1. And now the best way to make sure that you have all of those in your language study program is to learn a language with a textbook. Yeah, I know. But the thing is, textbooks are made by people who know things about teaching foreign languages, about learning foreign languages. And what is good about textbooks is that you do have all of those types of knowledge. You do have activities that help you train all of those skills. And what else is there in textbooks is revision and repetition. And that I just can't stress this enough, like how important revision and repetition are. Really important. They're essential, they're crucial in learning a language. And in textbooks, you will often have those, revision units where you can revise, where you can practice again, all of that vocabulary and grammar that you have learned in the previous unit. I have learned German with a textbook myself. I started at A1 and I started with a textbook. I've also learned English at the advanced level with a textbook, and I do have my favorite English textbook. I will share the name in the description. But then textbooks have problems. What problems exactly? Sorry, I've got my notes here. The first problem is that usually there's not enough pronunciation. Yeah, maybe you've noticed that already, that there's not enough pronunciation activities and nobody's checking them. Nobody's checking your pronunciation. The second problem is that the listening is often not very authentic. What I mean by that is that usually the listening activities in textbooks, they are made, the recordings are made by actors, I guess. So they have this script, they have the text that they have to read out and kind of, role play this situation. And the problem with that is that the speech is not very authentic, right? It's not very real. In real life, people speak slightly differently. They speak faster, they may have a more accented speech, so their accent may be stronger. And in real life, it is often difficult to understand people, but you have to prepare for that when you're learning a language. And that's why listening activities in a textbook are maybe not enough. The problem is that nobody's checking your writing and speaking. And the fourth problem is that sometimes there's just not enough repetition. So although I've just said that there is a lot of revision and repetition in textbooks, well, not in all textbooks, or maybe there is, but not enough for you personally, because you need more repetition, you need more revision. What is there in the textbook is just not enough for you. And yeah, this is the fourth problem. Now I'm going to address each of these four problems and how you can solve it while making this language learning plan or language study plan for yourself. So the first problem was that there are not enough pronunciation activities in textbooks. Well, this one, like, you have no excuse, because there are so many YouTube channels where they talk, where they teach pronunciation. I've had another video on pronunciation and my best three best tips that I can give on improving your pronunciation. I'll link this video, I guess, somewhere here in the corner and also in the description box below, so you can watch that video. And also in the description to that video you will find links to, or names, I don't remember, anyway, you will find names of different YouTube channels that you can use, and also some textbooks that you can use, because yes, there are also textbooks that you can use to improve your pronunciation. Now, the problem that nobody's checking your pronunciation. So firstly, as a pronunciation teacher myself, I should say that if you just repeat, even if nobody's checking that, but if you're watching videos where teachers explain how to pronounce specific sounds, or maybe they explain the rhythm, the stress, or something else, if you just watch those videos and try and repeat, all the time, your pronunciation will improve, even if nobody's checking it, okay? Even if nobody's giving you feedback. Just keep practicing. It will take you more time than if you have a teacher, but you will still progress. I also did an interview with one of the pronunciation teachers out there on YouTube, Emma. Her channel is called Pronunciation with Emma, and we discussed several techniques that you can use to improve your pronunciation on your own. So please go and watch that video if you're interested. What else can you use? You can also use youglish.com. That's a website where you type in a word or a phrase, and this website automatically finds YouTube videos for you which contain this word or phrase. By the way, it works not only for English but also for many other languages like Spanish, German, French, Italian, and some others. Then you can also use Volvo.com. That's another website. They call themselves a pronunciation dictionary, and in it you will have recordings made by speakers from different countries of how they pronounce a specific word. Next, you can use voice recognition tools, for example, on your smartphone. So you can just dictate, you can just say something, and with this voice recognition tool will recognize your voice and write a text of what you are saying. And if this tool makes some mistakes, then you can in the text, if you can see some mistakes in the text, if you can see that this tool did not recognize all the words that you said correctly, then you can really think like, okay, why did it not recognize my speech correctly? Did I pronounce those words wrong? And then you can check, you can look this word up in a dictionary and see what was wrong. Oh yes, and dictionaries, of course. Learn to use dictionaries. And I always say that it's really, really good from time to time to check the pronunciation of words, even of those words that you think you know the pronunciation of, because very often often it turns out that you have been pronouncing it wrong the whole time. If you can, it would be great if you learned the phonemic symbols, so those symbols that are used in any dictionary to explain to you how the word is pronounced. It is really useful to know them, but even if you don't know them, there are also recordings of those words. Finally, what I can recommend is maybe taking one pronunciation lesson or consultation every 6 months. So if you keep doing all that I've just mentioned and you keep practicing, then as I've already said, your pronunciation will improve. But of course you need some feedback. It would be great to get some feedback, but you don't need to attend pronunciation classes all the time. You can just take, one pronunciation lesson, maybe two, once every 6 months, well, like 4 to 6 months. And you will see that you are going to progress if you really practice, and you will also get some feedback on what you should do next. Now, problem number 2 that I mentioned is that there is often not enough authentic listening in a textbook. What do we do about that? Well, on A1 and A2 levels, I don't think you should do anything. There is basically no need to use anything except for a textbook. And on those levels, you might often feel anxious if you try and listen to authentic speech, and that's fine. Of course, you're not going to understand much, and this is going to make you really anxious. We don't want that. So that's fine if you just use the textbook. Starting at B1, I suggest starting listening to podcasts and watching videos about the language in the language. So, those like language themed podcasts where a teacher talks about language. Well, this video is, I guess, this kind of video, because in such podcasts and in such videos, on the one hand, teachers often, they use authentic, real language, but at the same time they speak a little bit slower than people speak in the streets, and we use vocabulary that, even in this video, I'm using vocabulary that I hope you will understand. Then what else? The so-called vox pops, those are interviews in the streets, when a person, usually a blogger, goes around the city and just stops people and asks them questions like, what hobbies do you have? Or do you have any pets? Or what do you usually buy as gifts for Christmas? And the thing is that with such videos, they're usually not too complicated, because you understand the context. You understand that every person is asked the same question. You already know the question. You often have it on the screen, and it's easier because even if you don't understand everything, you can also prepare a bit. So if the question is about Christmas gifts, then you can maybe search for some vocabulary to talk about Christmas and gifts and gifting, and this may help you to understand what is being said. One channel I absolutely adore is Easy Languages. Well, I'm watching Easy German, but they also have other languages as well. And yeah, I can really recommend that. It's always a lot of fun. But there are also other channels that make those kinds of surveys in the streets. Just look them up on YouTube. And finally, at B1, you can already start watching reels and stories and TikToks. Well, with reels, it might be difficult, of course, because if your native language is, let's say, Spanish, and you have been watching, reels in Spanish, then the algorithm will, of course, only suggest reels in Spanish to you. What I recommend then is to follow some accounts that are in the language that you're learning. So English, for example, or German, or any other language. And teach the algorithm, let the algorithm know that you are interested in other languages as well. Next, B2. basically you do the same, all the same things, plus something that I call narrow listening or narrow comprehension. I'm not going to explain this technique here. I'm just going to link a reel that I posted on Instagram a while ago about narrow listening, and there's also some text in the caption, so below the reel, that I suggest that you read, and I hope you will understand what I mean by narrow listening. This is something I really recommend on B2. And one more thing that I recommend on B2 is watching vlogs. Vlogs, so I mean lifestyle vlogs, you know, where people just go around the city, buy coffee, buy something new, go to the gym. The thing with vlogs is that this is very natural, everyday English, natural grammar, you know, everyday vocabulary, and usually it's not too complicated. And also because those are vlogs, so people are also showing what they are doing, it's really great because you can understand the context, you can understand where the person is, what this person is doing, and so how they are describing that using language. I still don't recommend films and series at B2 because for most people it is pretty frustrating at B2. For example, I'm still not watching films and series in German, although I'm doing a B2 course now. Because I've tried, but it's so frustrating. It's not that I don't understand every word, I understand most words, but I don't understand every word. No, I don't understand half of what they are saying. And it's really, really frustrating. So I gave up on this idea and I'm watching vlogs. Yeah, that is the kind of content that I can consume, that I can understand. And I'm going to watch, series and films a bit later when I'm at C1 maybe. Finally, at C1, C2, you can keep doing all of those things, but also start watching films and series, as I've said. But personally, I give preference to YouTube for the reasons that I've already stated above. Do you agree? Do you think YouTube is better for language learning than films and series? Let me know in the comments. The next problem with textbooks is that nobody's checking your writing and speaking. With writing, it's easy. Just use ChatGPT, right? You just feed in your text and ask ChatGPT to correct it, to check and correct it as if it were a teacher, and also ask it to explain your mistakes. You can also use Grammarly, for example. Well, I think Grammarly only works for English, but still. As for speaking, one thing you can do is, so the first step would be to use a voice recognition tool, as I've already said before, which will recognize and write down what you are saying, and then also feed this text into ChatGPT and it will check your text for vocabulary and grammar mistakes. And in this way, you're checking everything: pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar, and maybe also style. In this case, it would be really useful if you had a topic you wanted to speak about, and if you set a timer for a specific amount of time and try to answer the question in this time frame. And if you try to keep speaking the whole of the time, whether it's 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, you are going to be practicing fluency. Yeah, just the ability to come up with ideas, to express your ideas, trying to be quick with it. With recordings, you can also practice your accuracy. Okay, let me explain. So fluency is basically how quickly you speak, and accuracy is how correctly you speak. So how do you practice accuracy? With those voice recordings, you can, again, choose a topic, speak on it. Yeah, you can set a time limit as well. And then you listen to your own recording and try and find mistakes. And then try to think how to correct them, and then record yourself again. And you can even repeat that process several times. This teaches you to monitor your own speech and, to correct yourself while speaking, because you will be monitoring your own speech while you're speaking. You will be trying not to make mistakes, and also after speaking. Both of those skills are really useful in language learning. So monitoring your own speech is a really great skill. You can practice that with voice recordings. Finally, the last point, there may not be enough repetition and revision in the textbook. What do you do about that? Well, obviously, create it for yourself. One tool you can use is, or two tools, Quizlet and Anki. They both use a similar idea, the idea of flashcards, but in this case, digital flashcards. I'm not going to explain how to use flashcards. I'm sure there are already lots of videos about how to learn languages or how to learn vocabulary using flashcards. I'm not sure there are videos on how to use Quizlet and Anki for it, but if you find them, great. If not, you will have to wait a little bit, and I will make a video about how to use Quizlet and Anki for that. Then what else you can do is, if there's not enough repetition, you can take a different textbook and find a similar topic or the same topic, and maybe some of the vocabulary will be repeated there. You can also maybe take a vocabulary book, like Vocabulary in Use, for example, or take a vocabulary course just separately, a short-term course. And finally, you can also use narrow listening. Again, the link to the reel is in the description to this video, so have a look. At this point, you might also ask me, what about Duolingo? Is it a good way to learn a language? Well, it is and it is not. And this is all I can say now. I'm testing Duolingo at the moment, and I am going to make another video about Duolingo, so you will have to wait a little bit, sorry. One more thing I wanted to say, I am going to offer pronunciation, vocabulary and grammar courses soon, so just stay tuned, maybe follow me on Instagram. Of course, courses in English, and about English. And if this is something you're interested in, then just follow me on Instagram. That's it. Thank you for watching this far. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. If not, see you in the next one.